GlobeSpan is a Guyanese dialogue moving towards the realization of one nation in one Guyana. It's a platform that offers an all-inclusive discussion with the pros, the cons, the ones that is taken aside, and the ones that stand in the middle. GlobeSpan believes agreeing and disagreeing are part of the nation's building.
She is a beauty, beautiful Guyana, with wonderful people all over this country.
GlobeSpan believes every Guyanese voice is part of the nation's building. As we span the globe for voices from the diaspora and those living home, we stand on our commitment that we are all Guyanese working towards one nation in one Guyana. As the world turns on its axis bringing changes, we as Guyanese must adapt to those changes for a better Guyana for all. GlobeSpan stands on its axis with its belief that one nation, one Guyana, one destiny must include voices from all corners of Guyana.
With many flavors, 6 different people blended together. Raise your flag high in unity, we're family with one destiny. Raise your flag high in unity.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to GlobeSpan Television from New York, the Caribbean, Guyana, and around the world. This program is being made available by Mr. Noor Singh and by our technical directors, Mr. Ryan Gobin and Mr. Devin Bissoon. We can be heard live on YouTube and Facebook and all the other social networks as well. Just a caution. The views expressed by our guests do not reflect those of the staff and management of GlobeSpan Television. Tonight we have our special guest here. He is the leader of the opposition, being elected twice unanimously, and he's no other than Mr. Aubrey Norton. Mr. Norton, welcome to the program. We have lots to discuss tonight, so we got to get started right away.
Thanks for having me, and a good evening to your listening and viewing audience.
Mr. Norton, you have been a long-time PNC member. I was told you were the party since you were a teenager. But for the first time, you ran against President Granger in 2010. But within the last final days, you pulled out. Even though they said the polls are showing you're having unanimous support of Linden and of Berbice. Were you aware of that, and why did you pull out?
Well, I pulled out. I don't think it was it 2010? Anyhow, no, I think it was 2012. Anyhow, I pulled out at the time because I thought it was the right thing to do.
And that was to maintain party unity.
Among other things.
Okay. Now, I asked you to lead up to this. You had 2 opponents in this race. In the first race, you had, I think it was one opponent, Mr. Van West, Dr. Van West Charles.
No, in the first it was Joe Harmon and Richard Van West Charles.
But you actually won by a major majority there. Now,
Yes,
this time you had 2 opponents, Mr. Ford and Mr. Sear. And they pulled out as well. 2 questions. Why do you think they pulled out of the race? And the other
question is best directed to them. My own view is that having become party leader, I was doing the political work on the ground, and the party membership has trust in me. And I think whether they pulled out or not, the results would have been the same. I was very much grounded in the party and continue to engage party persons across the country.
Okay, my second question is, you all are comrades or party members together, and they're MPs as well. So that camaraderie is still there among the 3 of you?
Well, I would think so. In fact, I have spoken to both of them briefly. I was in the park where Romanza was, and we had a photo opportunity. I think these are young members of parliament who, with time, will come into their own.
Okay. Now, you have won, I could say, almost a landslide in both elections. And I think you're the first leader that won back-to-back elections. Am I right, for the PNC?
No, I could never be the first leader that did that. Hoyt
So
did it.
not Forbes Burnham, but other leaders.
Desmond Hoyt
Hoyt,
did it.
Desmond
Yeah.
Hoyt, and Granger did it too.
Yeah. And Corbyn.
Oh, Corbyn won 2 terms.
Yeah.
Now, it seems to me that you are very popular within the party. Why do you think you're so popular within the party?
I think it is from the work I've been doing on the ground. One of the tasks I undertook from the time I became leader was to put the party back on the ground, make it a grassroots party. I'd been involved in reinvigorating our groups, setting up new groups. And so in large measure, a lot of the persons who became despondent returned to the party and began working. And so I can say to you that I have a strong base in the party. We are working together. And I think those engagements with the party membership are responsible for the level of support I'm having. I think also that each and every party member accepts that they can engage me at any time, meet me at any time. In fact, sometimes I'm criticized for being too accessible. Of course, my own view is that wherever the people are, there is where I should be. And I do believe that we have had problems of accessibility recently to the leadership. So I came conscious of this fact to the party leadership and ensured that from the outset I'm accessible. And even the average man can walk off the road and come to Congress Place and get an opportunity for us to engage.
What year did you join the party, may I ask?
1972 at 15 years of age. I joined the YSM in Christiansburg, Linden.
So that's 28 and 22.
That's 50. That is 52 years ago.
52 years.
Yeah,
and
52
you
years
became the leader in 2021. That's like 49 years, 48 years. Why did you decide to become, pardon me?
No, I'm listening to you.
I said you became leader of 48 years after. Why
49, 2021, 49.
Okay. Why you decided to seek the leadership of the party, knowing fully well it's an extremely tough job?
Well, I had to look at the party at the time and see what is happening. And I also had to respond to the concerns of the party people. A lot of the party comrades felt that with my experience and long involvement, I should run for party leader. And so I heeded that request and I ran for party leadership. I think a lot of them felt that I have been in the party. I have always stayed with the party in season and out of season. And so I responded to their requests and ran for the leadership of the party.
Okay. Is there any active party member currently in the party longer than you?
Yes, I think Vincent Alexander might have been there a year before me. Carol Smith Joseph has been there around the same time with me. Egerton David and I would have joined around the same time, though he's active in New York. But there are a good bit of those who have been around. Egan Lawrence, who is in Washington, would have been in the YSM with us. There are many persons who have been in the YSM with us and are still here today and active, some home, some abroad.
I'm going to get to some national issues later on as we move on. But as party leader, you're tested in every angle. Your strengths and weaknesses are being exposed. What are some of your strengths and weaknesses as a leader?
I think some of the strengths I have are one, I think I have an ability to understand politics, analyze the situation, and make sensible political decisions, even while people are sensational and urging you to do things that, in their opinion, make sense, but politically, a lot of times, it's questionable. The other reason I think is that, again, I've been around. And having been around, there is hardly likely that a political scenario will emerge, which I haven't seen before. For instance, when we were going to local government, people would say, no, don't go, etc. But I've been around, I've watched Caribbean politics, I've watched Ghana politics, and I saw what happened to political parties when they didn't participate in local government, and the government takes everything. And with the kind of authoritarian government we have and dictatorial sometimes in nature, if you leave that door open, then they will take everything and exclude everyone that they believe up against them. So I think that is critical. I think another strength that I have is the energy to roam this country and engage people. I can say to you as party leader, I've visited all the interior regions at least 2 to 3 times. And the coastal area, I continue to be there and engaging people. I believe as well, like anyone else, I have the intellectual capacity, having served as a university lecturer, having done political science, communications, international relations. I think I've sought to be rounded. When I took the job, the truth is I wasn't paying attention to oil and gas, but I recognized very early that I had to put significant focus on oil and gas, and so I began to do the research and study it. And so I think the ability to study these issues that emerge and the situation that emerge and come up with answers is a strength. The other strength I think I have is that from the inception, we began to outline a vision for Guyana, what we call a people-centered development strategy and vision. And so I have been looking at all the issues, looking at the problems of Guyana, looking at possible solutions. The other thing is that I have been able to engage a core of professionals that bring to the table information, ideas, and advise me on how to operate. That is the fact that I also have a link with the old party stalwarts, Hamilton Green, Jeffrey Thomas, you name them. That in itself helps because I can call on them and the things I miss, they can put together. Weaknesses. I believe that though I am a politician, I still believe there's a place for principle. And so sometime in this unprincipled world, you can find yourself in a very difficult position. And I think it's a weakness, but it is something I pay careful attention to. I would say another weakness that I have is that I'm very tolerant of people, though people believe I'm intolerant. I know many persons who would say to me, why you allow them to do that? Why you allow them to do that? I think the tolerance is a strength. And sometimes that transforms into a weakness because when people believe you are tolerant, they push their luck. And at times you have to decide, well, when the luck run out. And so though I see it as a weakness in some regard, I also believe that I can deal with it because I also have this ability to be both firm and flexible. One has to, I believe leaders have got to be flexible because you're dealing with human beings and there are going to be individual situations that are different from the general situation. And you will need to know when to be flexible and when to be firm. And one of the things I try to practice as a strength is firmness, but flexibility. And there are those, again, who might misinterpret flexibility to mean weakness. And so inherent in some of the strengths are weaknesses which I have to deal with. Then there is perception. I think one of my weaknesses is sometimes I ignore perception. I mean, I'll give you a classic case. There's some around who always believe that I shouldn't be on Orange Walk, Bamba, Mali, Lime, and I shouldn't be on Pleasance, Line Top. And they call out all the places that I shouldn't be because of their perception of the place. Of course, I have a different view. I believe there is where I meet the people. There is where I get information. There is where I link with the people. And so, to me, though there are elements in the society who use that as a downside, I believe it has a positive element. When I go into a village and I sit down with people in the villages and we gaff, we take a drink, I learn from them. One person said to me that, oh, you shouldn't. The other day I was on Orange Walk. I think I was buying fish and chips or something, and somebody says, well, the leader of the opposition shouldn't be there. I mean, I just am of the view that I need to ground with people. I worked under Forbes Burnham, and I see him transferred from statesman to ordinary person. And I believe that is what is needed. You need to know when to be a statesman-like person, and you need to know when to be ordinary, accessible, and be able to relate to the average man. A lot of our supporters don't want you to give them $40 and $50 million. They just want you to show that you care for them and that the things you will do will redound to their benefit. And it is that kind of political life that I seek to live. And I would say in all the strengths, there are weaknesses. And from some of the weaknesses, I can pull strength. I am one who believes that in every positive, there's a negative and vice versa. So I have the tendency to look at the negative and derive the positive from it. And when I'm looking at the positive, I'm also looking for what negatives will come from it so I can attenuate the negative impact. All of this is occurring in an era of social media in which people can just spread rumors. I mean, I went to Nigeria, and if you follow the social media posts, oh, he was financed by the government, garbage. I was financed by the People's National Congress reform. But in this world of social media, there are people whose task is just to spread misinformation and pursue their own objectives. But one has to recognize that in this era, you have to live with the reality of social media. And some people now are living on social media. They get this support from people on social media, financial and otherwise. So I also see social media as sometimes a place of employment for some. I mean, and while I'm not annoyed with them, I just engage them at the right time and try to minimize the extremes of their misinformation.
I will ask you a question, but you don't have to answer it since it's under investigation. Just before the Congress got started, there's been allegations that you sexually molested someone and so forth. You want to talk about that, or you want to just let it go?
Well, there was no person who said I sexually molested them. If you listen to what the person said, they were very clear about me not engaging in anything of that. But like I've said, the issue is totally untrue. I've left it to the party. I don't want to delve further into it. But I can say to you, many people in this party can attest to the fact that I go all over with them, we lie, we do everything, and that is not in keeping with my character.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to address it since it's under investigation. Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. Now, last local government elections, I know the party did not go there and campaign vigorously like in the national elections. Maybe, I don't know the reasons, maybe finances or timing or whatever it is. But there's been some slippage for the party in areas such as Region 4 in Georgetown. Region 7 in Bartico, Region 6. I'll come back to Region 6, Region 10, Linden. Now, in Region 6, as you know, there are 19 NDCs and the PP1 18, meaning that there are Afro-Guyanese areas in Forest, Gibraltar, Cortland, Lancaster, Manchester, Alness, and up to Oxtyle, Limnere, Nurney, Kildon, and those areas, Evesham, Kilturn, Brighton, and 5051 Leeds, and so forth. And those areas always went to the PNC, but the PP won this time.
It is not true. It is not true that those areas are.
We're having a little problems with Mr. Norton's internet, so just bear with us. Devin, could you check that? Or Ryan?
Checking it now.
Yes. You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I was saying it is not true that all those areas were won by the PNC. If I recall, in the previous local government election, we won 2 areas. The Manchester area, which we won again this time. Right. And I think in the Kildonan area, there was a tie. So it is not true that we won in those areas. May I also make this point? We lost in 2018 in Buxton Falls, but nobody wants to mention the fact that we regained Buxton Falls. A conscious decision was taken that we will, in our strongholds, put our resources to ensure we maintain our strongholds. In Bartica, there was a tie, equal seats. In Plaisance, there was a tie, equal seats. In Linden, we maintained our base. In New Amsterdam, there was some increase in the PPP. In Georgetown, I think they increased by 2 seats or something like that. But to assess it like that is not to do a proper assessment. This local government election was the first with the PPP with oil resources. And they bribe African Guyanese left, right, and center. First point. The second point, in a lot of areas, using the fear tactics, they forged the signatures of many African Guyanese at a time when they don't want to challenge them because of the vindictive nature of the PPP. Nobody makes the point that in the good intent area, we improved our votes. A proper assessment of the local government will show that in some traditional PPP areas, we improved our performance. I come now to the recent elections, village elections in indigenous communities. Again, we have improved. And where we didn't, persons who operated as independent succeeded, which is indicative of the fact that the PPP is on the decline. We had to make some conscious decisions about local government. And the decision we made was that we will contest in our strongholds. We will encourage community groups in other areas, which we did. I think in perfect harmony, our decision was a wrong decision, a mistake made. Because a lot of people went there voting, looking for the APN UPAM, and enough work wasn't done to sensitize them to the fact that there was an independent group. And I think that is an error we made that cost us. But having looked overall, I think we did extremely well in local government against billions of dollars bribery. I remember sending people to the convention center, call them by up in Kitty and East Rhine Belt and say, hey, 250,000 on offer. And they went and they got money. So the PPP spent endless money bribing people in our strongholds. And people heeded our message to take their money and vote for the APNU. So for me, local government was a success for us because it showed us how to challenge the PPP with all the money at its disposal. People were saying to me, put money into flags. And I said, well, we have a general elections coming where we can need to flag up, but flag don't win election. The PPP carried a campaign of creating a perception. We carried a campaign of creating an understanding. And I think understanding defeated perception in the last local government elections. In Madhya, for instance, I think we should have done more. And we will do the work that is needed to ensure we win the next general and regional elections.
So you're going to be contesting all the regions in the next general elections?
All, every area. It's not for lack of machinery. We have the machinery and we're improving the machinery. And by the time the elections are called, we'll be ready for the national, general and regional elections. Of course, it is our sincere hope and we'll continue to fight for a clean voters list and biometrics.
Okay. Now you said you've traversed the country, visited a lot of regions. Have you been to Indo-Guyanese regions as well?
Many. Blackbush Polder, both bush lots, or all three bush lots for a check on the reality. People forget that I went to Little Africa, and when people hear Little Africa, they think only of Afro-Guyanese, but there were many Indo-Guyanese there, and after they were thanking me for getting the streets done, because after I exposed the PPP, then is when they went and they did the street. I was in Karivaton, I visited Karivaton Market, engage people, and we will intensify our work in the indigenous community and the Indo-Guyanese community.
Good. Now, what are your campaign strategies for the next election? Or you don't want to say?
If you mean generally, I can comment. Look.
Generally, yeah, okay.
Generally, the PPP has proven they are incompetent. Their projects are in trouble. It is well established that they are extremely corrupt. Extremely corrupt. It is well established that they are incompetent. And everywhere you go, you see the incompetence. They have destroyed the Guyana police force. All over the country you go, policemen are complaining. They want a change. The Guyana Defense Force want a change. The people of Guyana want a change. As a political party, our task is to analyze that situation. And our general strategy is based on what we call our people-centered development strategy, in which we will make the people of Guyana the focus and ensure that the resources from oil and gas meet the people of Guyana. In this regard, we are going to provide safe communities, meaning we will revamp the Guyana police force and we will ensure that communities are safe. At present, we have gone back to the point where people are afraid to move about in their communities. So we see safe communities as critical. We believe that people are entitled to a clean environment. and we will offer people a clean environment. I remember after the David Granger government cleaned up Georgetown and began to clean up Guyana, people started to get hope. People felt much better. We are back to a garbage city. Compliments of the People's Progressive Party, who believe that they should dominate and control everything and resources shouldn't go to opposition municipalities and NDCs. And so we intend to maximize benefit from oil. We intend to create a sustainable economy. And we will put out there the tenets of a sustainable economy. One in which we reinvigorate agriculture. We should be carried away by oil and gas. Oil and gas has to be the means towards an end. That end is creating a sustainable economy that gives the people of Guyana a quality life. And we can do that by taking a number of measures. One, if we remove income tax from low income and middle income workers, almost immediately that's a direct benefit to them. The government goes in the direction of giving the police and the army a bonus. Now, we believe that if there is a bonus to be given, it should go to all public servants, and we will do that. And that, for me, will fight the divisive nature of the PPP, separating the police and the army from the public service and the teachers. We're not going to take away the bonus. We're going to give it to all public servants because we believe the resources are now there to ensure that people get what they want. Our plan has to fight corruption. The biggest enemy and driver, the biggest enemy of development and the driver of poverty is corruption. And we will have strong anti-corruption measures so that we can reduce waste. A lot of Guyana's resources are being wasted. I point every time I have to drive through Prashad Nagar, and I point out to people here, they're building a road to nowhere. You already did this road, and building one on the inside, that is totally unnecessary. And it is clear that the purpose of it is to put resources in the hands of the PPP elite, the family, the friends, and favorite, to the point where Jagdo is now accepting that that is happening. So we will expand agriculture. We will expand the non-oil sector. I noticed after Sherwin Holder said in Parliament that we will take natural resources beyond oil and gas and gold and bauxite, and that we will look at other minerals. I saw the PPP now talking about going in that direction. But we said it in Parliament, and we're serious about it. We are going to develop other industries outside of the oil and gas sector. Look, once we can deal with the cost of electricity, Linden can become a place that produces tiles, both for local consumption and for export. But there is no focus on the development of industry there. We have said that we will have regional agriculture programs where we go into the region regardless of ethnicity and develop the agricultural sector so that these regions become self-sustainable in crop and livestock. And it's not something that we cannot do. We did it before. We need to expand it. And what we need to do is to train a larger core of agricultural assistants who are in the various communities helping with agriculture development. If we arrive at a point where we are producing in each region the crops and livestock that we need, that will help to bring down the cost of living. I remember Ashley Singh a couple of years ago when we were negotiating with the PPP, when we raised with him agriculture in Linden, agriculture in Region 8, agriculture in Region 7. He said in the negotiations that Region 6 and 5 have the comparative advantage and they should be allowed to. Now that is a narrow perception, very, very narrow. Guyana has the capacity to ensure all regions are agriculturally self-sustainable. We will pursue self-sustainable communities. One of the ways to deal with racism is to work to ensure all communities are self-sustainable. And once you can have projects that bring self-sustainability to all communities, then you will reduce the level of racism and racial animosity in the society. And we intend to do that. I don't want people to run away with the impression we're not going to build infrastructure. We're going to build infrastructure. But infrastructure has to be proper investment. For instance, I believe we need to focus on spending some money on the intra-regional highways. Because once you start to develop intra-regional highways, you're going to open land for economic development, etc. But the PPP doesn't want that. I want to invite you, because when I talk about discrimination, they tell you, but bring the evidence, etc. I invite everyone that comes to Guyana to go and see where the PPP bulldoze people in Mocha and claim that the road was in the path. The road is now completed and the people weren't in the path. But you know what is worse? They are now given to their friends and family properties in the same line where those people were. And so it is a clear case of discrimination. It's a clear case of asphyxiating the African population. And I want to say this. We are not anti-Indian. We believe all Guyanese are entitled to share in this national cake. But we cannot stay quiet when you see blatant cases of discrimination. And I know a battle is going to emerge because the PPP will seek to put people on that same stretch that they bulldoze people. And I've said before to all Guyanese, in coming to government, we will have a restitution committee which seeks to ensure all the people, regardless of ethnicity, who are discriminated against, have justice, because it is necessary. Now, in our approach, we believe there is a role for the creative arts, not just using artists to achieve political objectives. Until now, we have not invested or helped investors in a recording studio that our artists can access. We have failed to put money into indigenous music. When we left government, music was coming out to the Amerindian communities. We have got to invest in the creative arts. You have a situation where the National School of Dance, apart from the fact that it isn't getting the resources, it cannot participate in any activity that isn't sanctioned by the government. How people are going to be creative if they are restricted to the dictates of a cultural misfit. So I'm saying to you, all of these are areas that we have to address. I believe that there should be a national schools music program. In speaking to some young people the other day, I emphasized the importance of music and its role in education. So we will take a much different approach, expanding on oil sector. I'd mentioned promoting the expansion in the mineral sector. We also will seek to expand value added. Excuse me. You cannot continue to have an economy in which there isn't value added, because all the products that aren't value added are subject to the vulnerabilities of the market. And the more value added you have is much better. And so we cannot continue to just cut the tree and export the logs. We have to engage companies that when they come, they are doing value added, or you don't give them a license. We are at this point where we have to take our oil resources and ensure the people benefit. And I want to say here to the Guyanese people, we intend to have cash grants. Excuse me, but the cash grants must be to households after a household survey, and that it must come in a way that allow people to put it into the development of their life. Giving me 20,000 this week and 30,000 2 months from now creates dependency. It does not provide the resources for people to utilize it to expand. And even when you look at the cash grants for schools, it should be focused on helping children to go to school. What happens if a mother takes $30,000 or $40,000 per child and she got 6 children and their attendance at school isn't what it should be? I believe there should be incentives to the parents, to the children, to be in school. And then we have to look at the education system, because it's not just them being in school. It is sad that about 15 to 16,000 children do grade 6, or what we know as common entrance. And only about 5 to 6,000 will leave high school with 5 subjects with mathematics and English. What that means is you have a society that is not matriculating, and we need to have one. And to rectify that, we have to go back to fixing the primary school, so that when a child leaves the primary school at grade 6, that child has a base. The other thing I think we need to do in our education system is to put back an exam at 3rd form. Why? A child goes to school. They come out to school, let's say they drop out in 4th form. There is nothing to say what this child has achieved. I don't think it has to be a foreign exam. We can have a proper local exam that allows us to test our children. I went to school with a number of persons who, for the want of a better word, failed common entrance, failed grade 6, but went to what we call CP at the time, College of Preceptors, passed, and went on to high school and did extremely well. I don't want to call names, but I think it's a deficiency in our system. So we need to have our children reading, writing, everything at the primary, give them the base to go to secondary, and even those that remain in primary should have the opportunity to do an exam. And I'm not saying exam is the end it all, but it is a means of certifying people so that they can move on. As it stands, what we have is a nation of dropouts with little or no avenue to progress. And that is why I consistently say we have to look at development in a holistic way. Development cannot be focused on an elite, their family and their friends making a set of money off of contracts. You drive the new highway that they build, you already see holes developing. The government lacks common sense. You now have to go and put up in Lamaha Gardens. You run a main road through it. You didn't build it for with the required quality, so it is deteriorating. You didn't consider that you were passing through a residential area and its impact. And so now you're putting up a number of signs preventing trucks from going there. I mean, it is evident to me that there is no planning. You build the Heroes Highway, and now every day you got to put about 8 policemen at every junction. Were you forward thinking, you would have known that the world is going up and underneath. And at the point of those villages, you should have had flyover, overfly, whatever you call them, so that you know the movement doesn't stop. People who are going in a village pass under and go in a village, and if they want, they come out and come on the highway. But this government is not serious about infrastructure development. They are serious about their cronies making money. Ghana is a low-lying coastal state, and we are narrowing the drains. That's what we're doing. If you go to the embankment road, they're taking up the drain. Where the water is going to go. You aren't simultaneously developing a proper drainage system. And so you are preparing the conditions propitious to flooding. And so what I would say to you, we are going to have a people-centered development strategy in which we put the people and their development first. And the programs we'll do, and I have many more, some we're going to keep for elections. The programs we are going to do are going to put money in the hands of our people. I give you another practical one. You have public servants, former ministers in both the PPP and the PNC government who cannot live on their pension. And there is no attempt to make the pension livable. I'm saying to you, we are going to ensure there's a livable pension, excuse me. We're going to ensure there's a livable pension because it is unfair to our senior citizens to work their soul case off, and then the pension can't give them the basics. If you see the condition, every time I go to the post office, and I'm a pensioner as well, every time I go to the post office and see how pensioners punish to get their money, they're sitting on a hard bench. At that age, you don't have, for the want of a better word, the meat to absorb that punishment. But for some reason, the government doesn't see it fit to develop by every post office quality accommodation so our pensioners can go and sit. Some say throwing it through the bank, but they miss. I go to Sparring Dam regularly, And pensioners coming together is like a reunion in some regard. You see them, even though they're big and they got all the ailments, there's a camaraderie. And we need to provide the environment so that they can sit, collect the pension, enjoy the gaff, and go home and live the rest of their life satisfactorily. When you think about the pension that senior people in this society get in comparison to the average man, and I know what the government is going to do. They're going to come with some reasonable, for the want of a better word, increases in the next budget because it's election year. But I say to the Guyanese people, they had 4 years to improve your life. A one-off in 2025 will be an election gimmick because they will go back to their old attitude of ensuring the resources go to the few while the majority punish.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. You've mentioned corruption. We'll just touch on that briefly. Vice President Jagger said if anyone knows of anyone who is corrupt and so forth, report it to the right authorities and action will be taken.
Just gotta go. He just has to look in the mirror. If he looks in the mirror, he sees the evidence. Vice News brought it out very, very clear. Serious allegations. That has been reported. What action can be taken? No action can be taken. You choose a police commissioner that is compliant and complicit. You have compromised the Ghana police force. Who is going to go and talk about the corruption? The very vice president who had a lot of information on allegations of corruption against Brutus said there wasn't enough evidence. There's really no case. Look, he has no moral right to speak. I have always said to both the president and the vice president, take your assets, put it against your income, and if the two mesh, I stop talking about your own corruption.
Okay. Now, my other question to you is this. If elected to office, would you renegotiate the oil contract?
Look, I've said to people, this oil contract has a mechanism in Article 32 for the government to engage the oil company and make the changes needed. It has to be by mutual agreement, but you have got to assemble proper negotiators with the right skills. There were changes made to the contract under the APNU. So there is evidence that it could be done. There are those who are fighting for people to say renegotiate. It is not language I will use. What I will say is that we will use the provisions in the contract to engage ExxonMobil so that we get more resources for the development of the people of Guyana. And I am clear on that. I've made it very public, and I have said, as a politician and leader of the opposition, I will allow no one to choose language to me. The language that we choose must be language that will serve our country in good stead while achieving its objective. And its major objective is to get more from our oil and gas resources for the people of Guyana. That is what we will pursue.
I came across a paper, or someone sent it to me from your group there, that states the following. If elected to office, the PNCR government or APNU government will lower the toll on the Barbies Bridge from $1,900 to $1,500. And all of the vehicles according to the same percentage rate, because they said that the bridge already made back his money. So it's now time for the taxpayers or the public to not be paid that huge toll. Another thing it says, you'll increase old age pension, not you at the party, from 36,000 to 60,000. Another thing I read in papers, you'll increase the Because We Care program, the children program, for parents receiving money on behalf of the kids in school, from 45,000 to 65,000. Senior citizens will be exempted from VAT, water, and electrical bills. And you will give each household $600,000 per year from the resources at Christmas time. You'll also make, usually, I'm reading from the paper I got, free for all, and build a campus at Linden and call it the Technology Campus, and one at Quarantine, on 10, I think it is, the Agriculture Campus and the Turkian Campus will remain the main campus. And one other thing I got here, you'll also give to senior single parents, mostly mothers, earning less than $120,000 a month, $50,000 a month to help them. Is that your party policies, or you don't know about this one?
Some of it we have discussed and agreed to. I don't know about the 600,000. I don't recall us putting a figure. What I do recall is that in the discussion, we did agree that there will be that cash grant. I remember there was talk about whether it should be 500,000 every 6 months or $1 million a year. Those details, I think, still have got to be worked out. As it relates to single parents, we have taken a position that a lot of the single parents are vulnerable, and we want to help the vulnerable. It doesn't mean that you will promote a policy which everybody fighting to be a child and then they get rid of them, answer, they call them a single parent. We're talking here about helping vulnerable groups, of which single parent is one. You have persons with disability that we need to help. So there are going to be a number of programs that will help the vulnerable. We have said the two things we need to do for the school system, apart from those that I mentioned. One is to have 2 hot meals. The reason being, the evidence is suggesting that a lot of children, one, don't get the nutrition they need. 2, some of them go to school without eating. And if we give them the 2 meals, we remove from the parent, at least for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that responsibility. Of course, we'll have to put the mechanism in place to monitor and ensure quality, because I'm seeing some food production for children that some dogs wouldn't eat. We must not only give them the hot meals, it must be based on certain standards and cooked in certain hygienic conditions so that our children can benefit. The other thing I've said, we have to work on a school's transportation system, meaning buses, boats, etc. Look, I was in the Pomeroon, and one of the major cries of people in the Pomeroon was the cost to get their children to school. And many of them tell you that their children can't go to school because of the cost. And this government had parked the boat, allowing it to deteriorate, that David Granger gave to the Pomeroon. And only after we expose it did they go and fix the boat. Now, we were able, without oil resources, to begin to give our children the facilities they need to get them to school. We're saying that we can use oil resources to get our children to school, which will also contribute to a reduction of the expenses of the parents. And so a lot of parents will benefit in a direct way. Now, note we are saying all of this. At the same time, we're talking about a sustainable economy. The two things cannot be seen in isolation. We have to create the economy to sustain what we're doing. And we have to develop the economy past oil, which is estimated to be 40 or 50 years of oil resources. And so we have got to take development serious and carry it in that kind of a direction.
Would you lower the toll on the Barbies Bridge?
I don't know the figures now, but I know in policy position, if we got in government and the evidence is the bridge has paid for itself, immediately it can be lowered. I do not believe in the first instance, people should have been paying the money they paid to cross the Barbies Bridge. What is so significantly different between the Barbies Bridge and the Demerara Harbor Bridge? And so I do believe that people going to the quarantine and coming from the quarantine should have access to cheaper tolls at the bridge. I don't want to give, say, I don't recall us engaging and saying that we're bringing it down to 1,005. I don't recall the figure. What I do recall is that there was discussion in the group about ensuring it is affordable and the people in Barbies can use it at an affordable level.
I got a message here from one of our listeners. They asked me to ask you this question. They said, over 200 of us going to school from Linden to UG. Can't you provide a campus at Linden?
Okay, I believe that there should be a campus in Linden. And I've said that at a rally in Linden. Now, I believe we might need to take a dual approach, not only to Linden, but to the country. Clearly, Linden is suitable for the mining school. Barbies, suitable for agriculture. The East Coast, suitable for agriculture. So I accept that we should have a university in Linden. What I can't say at this stage is what are the figures for each area of study. For instance, you say 400. If you can create viable classes and people don't need to come to Turkine, then it should be done. And the same is true about Tain. And the same should be true about Essequibo. But what we need to do is increase the salaries of lecturers at the university so we can attract more people, especially at the master's and the PhD level. Because at the base of our development strategy will be human resource development. Because we believe that once the human resource is developed, your country will develop. And we have to look at all the areas we need, train people, bring back people. The oil and gas sector need the training of people just to monitor and audit. And so human resource development will be critical. Not this stupidness where you just jump online and claim that you have some degree. Well accredited, proper training, some at home, some overseas. We had a free university without oil resources. Why can't we have one with oil resources and at the same time give our young people a stipend to help them with their expenses while ensuring at the end of every year there is a proper report so that we don't spend money on people who claiming to go to UG but not doing the work. So again, it has to be dealt with holistically.
So if I got you right, you will make UG free, plus give students a stipend, provided they produce at a certain, perform at a certain level.
A little wider. Look, My own experience tells me that there are thousands of children out there who have the capacity to go to university, but they don't have the resources. So even though you make the university free, we would need to do assessments and ensure that we can help those students who attend the university by giving them a stipend so they could deal with the basics. I know what is it for people going to the university and they don't have money to sustain them. There was a time when I was at university, when I bicycled down, I walked with other university students from Torkine to Georgetown. And it can be rough. And I believe as a government, we are obligated to ensure we make the best of the resources we have. And since the human resource is the best, we have to invest in them. And it is in that context I will deal with UG. We call it a 50-50 program, where we'll try to bring together about 50,000 students who we help with $50,000 to achieve their career ambitions. I'm a strong believer that once people are supported and given the opportunity, they will succeed. And I've seen many people who are bright, but lack the resources. I will return scholarships to law. We began to give scholarship to law students. This government come back and stop it. Why must we leave law only for the children of the wealthy and the elite? What happens if a child is brighter than the elite child? And just because that child parents have money, they get the opportunity, and the children who come from a poor background are not given the opportunity. Mind you, I'm not up against people who have money giving the children the best training. What I am for is the society giving the dispossessed the opportunity to improve their lives through education. I have argued for all the years, even in my youth, that one of the surest way to emancipation is education. And I believe it is incumbent on any government to provide the educational opportunities for our children. They should be established, and we were working on it when we were in government, a proper youth training institution in virtually every region. We can start in that institution must be equipped to train our children in welding, train our children in mechanics, electrical, you name it, so that we produce a core of tradesmen and women. Isn't it sad that you have to use an engine company that is on the highway, a Shuka or whatever it is named, and you are bringing them as drivers, when you can train these young people in Guyana to drive? And I want the government to challenge that fact. And not only have they brought them, they are giving them ID cards. And if Jagdeo want the evidence, I'll send the evidence to him. But the wider point is, you have high youth unemployment. And then what you do? You're giving them $40,000 to sit around doing nothing. 10 days workers. What you are in fact doing is destroying the society, rather than creating opportunities for them to improve educationally, develop their trades, etc., and become productive, successful people in the society. And that is what I think we should set out to do. There are those who criticize national service. national service, like any institution, had its downside. But no one can gainsay the fact that it inculcated in our youth discipline. It gave them opportunities to improve themselves in a way that this generation isn't getting. What the government is instilling in this generation is money for make. And they themselves are creating the conditions for what is happening in this society. And so we have got to take a totally different approach in rebuilding this society.
I have another question from one of our listeners here. She said, since, is obviously the female, she said she is 34 years old now. But since she was growing up in Guyana, there's been constant blackouts, even before she was born. Now, she said all governments, past and present, came when campaigning, they're going to end blackouts. But blackouts, she said today, are worse off than any other times. Would if elected to office, would you end or reduce blackout? And how would you do that?
We had reduced blackouts significantly. When the PPP came to power in 2020, blackouts were virtually a thing of the past. That apart, whether you like Patterson or not, he had a clear plan to improve electricity. We brought a competent manager and placed him in charge of GPL. GPL had become financially viable, something that we forget. We're now subsidizing it left, right, and center because we put back the incompetence and the nepotism is manifest. Now, anyone who compare 2015 to 2020 and 2020 to now would recognize that we had a structured program and we were getting rid of blackout. And we can say to you that the next APNU government will ensure that we deal with blackout. We will end the blackouts because we have shown we can manage Guyana Power and Light. And not only Guyana Power and Light, water had improved significantly under the coalition. Now the government, it is saying it is too costly. And so a lot of communities now getting mobby. Some ain't getting no water. If you are serious about the development of the people of Guyana, there are certain things you have to make a priority. 1, education. 2, electricity. 3, health. 4, electricity, health, water, education. They must be priorities. If they are functioning, then we can see the society beginning to function. In discussion with persons in the health field, there is the general view that there are a lot of Guyanese who want to retire in Guyana. The biggest problem is the health system. And we will hurtle to improve the health system in such a way that a lot of the Guyanese who retire overseas and want to come home and spend a pension and the end of their life here should be given the opportunity to do that. There's little sense in a set of specialty hospitals without specialists. What we need is a proper healthcare system that people can access. What we are seeing in health is a movement in the direction of pushing health away from the people. The people have got to go to private institutions because of government's incompetence. That should not be. Our constitution guarantees the people free health facilities. I'm not saying no to private hospitals. I'm not saying no to private involvement in medicine. What I'm saying is that the responsibility devolves on the government to provide high quality health services, so that the people of Guyana can access it. And I don't only see health services, we see also a health education program, because there are a lot of non-communicable diseases that can be dealt with if there is a proper health education program. And if we are producing the fruits and vegetables and bring down the price, add exercise to that, and we are well on the road to producing a healthy society and become involved in preventive medicine, rather than people got to run at the end of the day for treatment. We have to take a different approach to health.
Why did you support APNU closing of the 4 sugar factories?
Closing of the 4 sugar factories. Look, sugar factories have been closing, more close under the PPP than under us. I believe that sugar has to be produced in limited quantities. The task, therefore, is ours, to find alternative employment for the people in the sugar industry. I don't think you should close it and leave them without employment. I've been engaging people in the diaspora and at home, and on some of the ideas we have for dealing with that issue in Region 6, 5, and 3. And there are other forms of employment that could be found for the people there, while at the same time having the sugar industry at the right size and seeking to make it as viable as it could in the present international and national context. I believe that we can do that. And the major task should be to provide all workers, wherever they are, a livable income. We would not go and just close sugar factories.
But APNU did that, though.
I just said to you, the PPP did it, APNU did it. I'm now saying to you, our approach has to be one in which we create employment and bring the sugar industry to the size that is best suitable.
Okay.
And mind you, sometimes when people talk, they provide misinformation that they didn't get severance pay, they got severance pay, etc. Now, the government, whether we like it or not, is throwing money down a hole. And at the end of the day, the sugar workers will still be in trouble, because you are not creating a viable institution. I give you one area. You can modernize agriculture in this country and help sugar and other workers to go into agriculture and get a viable life. So to me, it's in a very structured way, getting workers engaged in other activities so that their livelihood is protected and the Guyana economy saves itself of wasting money just throwing down. I invite people to look at, I've asked a group to look at the management structure of Gaisuko and see the top 6, how much money they carry. If you don't deal with those problems, we'll continue to be in trouble. One man came and said he had the solution for the sugar industry, viable, you can make it this, you can make it that, and all he did was waste our money.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about the diaspora and how to get qualified Guyanese to come back home and to help in the development process here. Now, why your government can't pass a bill? Because of the Charandas saga, it came to realize, but it never stated that, I think someone is misusing the Constitution, that you can be dual citizenship and be a member of parliament or be a minister. But I read that in the Constitution, and it did not specifically stated that, but that's a perception a lot of people have. But why don't you pass a bill and make it clear that, look, people in the diaspora, like the other Caribbean countries, with dual citizenship can come back to Guyana and work and be members of parliament and be minister, but they can't be prime minister or president unless they live in the country for the 7 years required before you can assume the presidency or something of the sort. Why did your party pass a bill like that? That will benefit everyone in Guyana.
All right, let us deal with what are the issues here. As I am aware, the Constitution does state that you cannot have dual citizenship and be a member of parliament. There are advantages to creating an open system, but it can also create opportunism. Let us be clear about that. I am one who agree that you need to be resident 7 years in Guyana to be president. Because you don't want somebody who is out of touch with the Guyanese reality to come. I am not against dual citizenship. I believe there are skills out there we need. What I'm not sure is that we need those skills in parliament. And so my focus wouldn't be so much on parliament. My focus will be to create an environment that they can come home, provide their professional skills. And I would also put, if I'm doing a bill, something that says, even to go to parliament, you should be in Ghana at least 5 years. Now, that has its downside, but it has its upside. You cannot create in this society a situation where somebody, for the want of a better word, parachutes into Guyana. They probably don't even know the 10 regions. The knowledge of Guyana might be questionable. So I think there should be change, but I do believe that you should be in Guyana at least 5 years, working with the people in Guyana, in touch with them, understanding Guyana, before you proceed to become a member of parliament and a minister.
But they had ministers who were members of parliament before.
I didn't hear that.
They had ministers who came from outside and were members of parliament.
I agree, but it was in violation of the Constitution.
Okay, let me just read what the Constitution says.
I didn't hear that.
I stand corrected if anyone can send me the clause where it says you can be a member. Let me read what the Constitution says. Article 44. A person born outside of Guyana after commencement of this Constitution shall become a citizen of Guyana at the date of his or her birth, if at that date his or her father or his or her mother is a citizen of Guyana, otherwise done by virtue of this article. 45. Any person who after the commencement of this Constitution marries a person who is or becomes a citizen of Guyana shall be entitled, upon making application in such a manner and taking such oath of allegiance as may be prescribed, to be registered as a citizen of Guyana. This is the only part I think there is.
No, I think there is another clause. There is a clause.
Anyone to send me that clause because I haven't seen it.
All right,
where
I am
states
going to,
that you can't be a member of parliament.
I'm going to seek to get it because I know the court ruled. It's not that you can't be a citizen. You can become a citizen. But if you have citizenship of another country, you are disqualified.
I want to see that though. I want to see that part.
I will check on it and seek to let you get it. And I know Christopher Ram and I, years ago, looked at it. And I know it is in the Constitution. I don't remember the details.
Okay. I'm willing to see that part. So let me go to another question because we're coming to the end of the time here. You have stated that if there's a consensus candidate for the presidency, you will give way to him or her to be the presidential candidate. Do you still stand by that?
My party has passed a motion on this issue, and the motion that the party passed says that Aubrey Norton will be the presidential candidate, and that if there's going to be any other person, the decision will rest with me.
So you will make that decision to allow another person to be the presidential candidate if you don't want to?
I never said that. I said the decision rests with me.
What,
And
explain
even
that.
if,
Explain
and
that.
even if the party has passed a thing that says the leader of the PNC is presidential candidate.
Right.
That is given. I think they tried not to close the door to other options. And so they put that section which says the question will lie solely with the leader of the party. As leader of the party, if I'm to make a decision like that, I will go back to the party, either its general council or its forum, consult. But for now, the party has established that I will be the presidential candidate.
But my question to you, though, you don't see yourself giving way to somebody else? I'm not saying that you should.
I have answered that question before, saying that as it stands, the PNC is the largest party in the coalition. And even if it is to be given to somebody else, it has to go to somebody in the PNC.
Not
Look,
someone from outside.
this is politics. Why would we have 90% of the support or more? Why would we do as much work as we do? And then in the final analysis, give it to somebody else outside the party.
I agree. So we're coming to the end of the program. What do you think the party should do to further reinvent itself coming into the 2025 elections?
I don't know what you mean by reinvent itself.
Or
Our party,
improve itself?
our party, there are many things we have to do to improve. We need a better PR program. I've accepted that though we've improved the PR in the party, it's not that it's the best. I would like to see us do more field work, and we will do more field work in the Indo-Guyanese community. Another area I would like to see us improve as a party, really, I believe winning elections is ground. You do the work on the ground. Perception plays its role. So we have got to continue to do work to improve the party electoral machinery. We need to do that. In terms of policies, which I think is the most critical, we have been outlining clear-cut policies and inviting the PPP to debate them if they want. Because we believe that as an opposition, we should have clear policy direction for Guyana. And so we do believe we have policies. We will improve on the outlay and output of our policies.
Do you believe in polls?
I didn't hear that.
Do you believe in polls?
If they are properly done. Look, every election, there's a chap that is bring out polls that they show the PPP way ahead, even when they lose 2 times. So if he comes with a poll, I know it's a PPP control poll. If you can have independent polls, and I can verify that they were done independently, because we have had people come to this country, white people, and I want to make that clear, and they engage the Indian community, they engage the African community, they engage the indigenous community, and they get the truth. The truth is people want to see the PPP out of power. So I am not against polls if they are properly done polls work.
Would
For
your
instance,
party establish a polling mechanism?
yes, we will. We have done some slight ones, but we need to do some more. Because we do believe that you need proper polling. And we also have the data to ensure that we can access information, etc. I believe if the poll is properly done, and you see, a poll for me is not whether you would win or lose. A poll is to tell you your areas of strength, your areas of weakness. You target your areas of weakness and improve them. You seek to improve your strengths. The poll must also give you people's perception of what is happening, and you work towards changing perception. A poll that comes out and says, oh, the PPP will win, or the APNU will win. To me, a lot of times they don't be scientific. We need scientific, reliable polls that serve as a form of advice on how we campaign.
But in Ghana, you don't have scientific pollsters, though. Anyway, I got 3 questions for you.
No, I agree that we don't have it, but we need it.
Okay. I have 3 questions for you before we close, for your closing remarks, and they just require yes or no. On a scale of 1 to 10.
Hold on, no question can require yes or no.
These I'm asking you. Well, they're asking require a straight answer. On a scale of 1 to 10, how united is your party? 10 being the highest.
Go ahead.
How united is your party?
Oh, you said 3, so I was waiting on the other 2.
No, I'll ask you one at a time.
Our party, Congress should have told you how united the party is.
Well, you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10.
The base, I won't want to go on a scale of 1 to 10. It's very subjective. What I would say is that the base of the party is united and in support of the party.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you think your party can win the next elections?
The answer is yes.
What percentage you give yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
Again, percentages are subjective.
Okay.
Look, I believe if our party continues to consolidate its base and move out into the indigenous community in the way we're doing it, and into the Indian community, and engage in certain sections in the society, we will win the next election.
Okay. Final question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest again, what rating will you give this government?
This government, I let the people rate them. The people have already, across this country, concluding that they are below 5. Let the polls manifest when the elections come, where they are. Like I said to you, 1 to 10 could be very subjective. But if you drive this country and get the sentiments of the people, you will know they're below 5. But I don't want to give a subjective figure. It is very difficult for you to be incompetent, corrupt, divisive, and rate high as a government. Very difficult. The PPP is just where it was 2013, 2014.
Okay.
It is for us to do the work to make the change.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Your closing remarks.
I would say in my closing remarks that we have developed a people-centered development strategy that is aimed at putting resources in the hands of the people of this country. We believe at present the resources are going to an elite, family, friends, and favorites, and that the people of Guyana aren't benefiting in the way they should. One of the things I didn't mention that I wanted to mention is that this government consistently destroys trade unionism. And our intention is to restore the trade union movement, give them the freedom to operate, and let them represent workers. Because for you to develop the kind of society we are talking about, you need decent, hardworking trade unionists, and you need workers represented by those trade unions in a free and fair environment. So we will create conditions for the labor movement to reemerge, because the labor movement has a critical role to play in ensuring equity and a good life for the Guyanese people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Norton. I want to say in closing that I still believe that the retirement age should correspond with the rest of the Caribbean countries, 62 at least. I also believe that we should have better internet system, because I'm in Guyana and internet is, I'm talking to people and it's always cutting off. And still I don't know the reason for that. And also was up in quarantine on 2 back-to-back weekends, and there being blackouts every day I was there. And the blackouts last for 3, 4, 5 hours. And when there are blackouts, there's no running water. You can't shower, you can't do anything. So I'm hoping that these things can be solved and to move the country forward. Because
You would
blackouts,
agree we showed that we can solve them when we were in government. And in returning to government, I have no doubt that we will solve those problems. Once you create the institutions and give people the requisite resources, those problems can be solved. They're not beyond solving.
if I want to step in quarantine on a Monday to do my program here remotely, there'll be blackouts. So that's why I have to come to Georgetown. Where I'm staying, if there's a blackout, there's a generator system kicks in. So somehow blackouts disrupt people's lives, and it has to change. It has to change. I don't know why there are constant blackouts of the quarantine. It's actually every day it's happening.
They will tell you birds damage the cable.
Well, I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying the problem should be solved, because when you disrupt people's lives like that, it's actually no good.
I agree totally.
They've got to identify the problem. Why is it happening, and solve the problem. It's not rocket science.
Dr. Rose, it is happening. They met a plan. That plan included increasing generation capacity. It also dealt with transmission and a number of other things. This government did not follow the plan, and they did not put a plan in place. So blackouts will be the order of the day.
I was made to understand that if there are blackouts from New Amsterdam all the way to Auckland, there'll be blackouts, that whole section. And if from Wim all the way to Scotland.
I can tell you, I have reports from Bartica that there was blackout all day yesterday. And today, when the current came back, it went again. Just a manifestation of the incompetence of the government.
But of the quarantine to have blackout, let's say for a 26-mile stretch from New Amsterdam to Auckland, then from Wim to Skeldon. Why is got to be that large section? You don't know to dissect your transformers and get, I don't know. Anyway, that's something that should be solved. And it's not rocket science to solve that. Somebody's not doing something that is right.
They remove a competent manager that was brought from overseas and was improving it. And they put the family friend and favorite. Check the name of who had in GPL and see if you could link it to any family.
I was born of the quarantine, and I'm scared to go to the spend it overnight, because when the blackout comes, I perspire. I can't sleep at nights because the place is be hot. So I'm scared to go up there. If I go up there, I got to come back the same day. So it's very, very difficult. Thanks a lot, Mr. Norton, and once again, thanks to all our listeners for tuning in tonight, and more so thanks to our sponsors for making this program available, and to Mr. Noir Singh, our CEO, Mr. Devin Bissoon, Mr. Ryan Gobin, our technical directors, and to you, our listeners, a very special thanks to all of you. And I hope you tune in next Monday. We'll have another special guest, and hopefully I'll be able to see you all next Monday. Thank you very much.